All right, so we're live. Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching the show. This is the Daytripper Photo Show. Tonight we're talking about slow shutter speeds. In photography, there's a lot of really cool things. There's aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and all kinds of cool exposure stuff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But slow shutter speeds is something that's very specific. Before we get too much into it, I just want to remind or tell people that we're changing things up on the show a little bit. We are going to try and keep them a little bit shorter, and to do that, we're going to split apart our photo challenges and our topic shows. So this is the first show in this whole way of doing it. Today it's just a topic. We're not going to give our photo reviews this week. We're going to save that for next week, which means that everybody has an extra week to make their photos for our photo challenge, which is in between and loud. So there's the two challenges that we gave last week. You can carry those over through this week, and we're going to review those photos next week. So that's pretty cool, right? Hopefully this will save us some time. We're not going to be here for too long every night, or every week, I should say. And it'll make it a little more concise, a little easier.
We actually do the show nightly, but we only air it once a week because we want to make sure we're practiced.
So we have a stockpile of shows that we apparently will never show anybody because they're not live. We're working on that idea. We need the time machine first, but we'll get there. But I also want to thank our sponsors of the show, LowPro and LensPen, for giving us prizes and gifts that we can give away on day trips and things like that. Thankful for these guys because they really help give an added value to what we offer as a photography helper, I guess you can say. So it's really cool. Thank you, LensPen and LowPro, for pitching in and giving us gear throughout the years. And, of course, for next week's photo challenge, the winner will be getting the LensPen because that's what we do. Oops, I dropped them. All right. One more thing. Just remember to remind everybody that you have to watch us on YouTube. Check out our back history of shows. We've done many shows now, and there's something for everybody. Somebody asked if there was a way that we could go back and give a list of all the past shows. So I went back and I actually watched the beginning of every show we've ever done. So 120 shows. I sat there and I watched. Hi, this is episode number so-and-so and so-and-so. Thank you for watching our show. And then, hi, thank you for watching episode number so-and-so and so. It was very much
wow.
Yeah. So I'm changing it up a little bit. We're having a little more fun. We're relaxing a little bit. We're not going to get so...
Never go back and watch early shows.
Oh, no, don't.
No.
Why not, Gabriel?
They use that instead of waterboarding, man. Like the early shows, man. We were just getting our groove on, man. You don't go back and watch those ones.
So anything like older than episode 117, you just want to stay away from those.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe 180. Probably nothing before 180.
Nothing before 180 at all.
No.
Okay, again, time machine. Okay, so last but not least, like us, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and share it with your friends. Let them know that we're doing this show and trying to give some good, useful information to everybody. Speaking of good, useful information, the Daytripper Photo community on Google Plus is a great resource for that. If anybody wants to get more out of your photography, or you've taken a picture, you don't know why it's turning out a certain way, if you post it there, everybody sees it, and everybody can, pitch in and give you some opinions and let you know what you could do right or what you can do differently, how you did things properly, and give you some tips. It's cool stuff. All right, so let's get into our discussion because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Slow shutter speed. Do you guys do a lot of slow shutter speed work, Navi? Gib?
I have.
What kind of stuff do you enjoy about slow? For me, it's about, you make this photo in camera. You don't have to edit it. It's all done right there. Nothing else extra. It's a really cool thing that I like about slow shutter speed. What do you like?
I like that it changes what you see. Like you create a whole different type of picture with a slow shutter speed.
You mean waterfalls don't really look like milky water all the time?
Create on a big pooling thing of milk. Water.
Gabe, what's up with that?
So, for those who are wondering why we're laughing, my beautiful wife didn't know when she was younger and didn't know anything about photography, or kept on still thought that people said that there's a giraffe at the window and not that there's a draft at the window, but she didn't know that
what?
She was young, and she lived in Scotland. Everybody spoke with funny accents.
Okay, all right. It's a Scotland thing. Fine.
Yeah, it's a Scotland thing. She didn't know that. I mean, you see these pictures, beautiful pictures of these waterfalls with silky water and stuff, and she always wanted to go and see those waterfalls because it looked beautiful. And then one day she found out that it was just slow shutter speed. It was an effect that you create in camera, and she was devastated because she had always wanted to go traveling and see these beautiful silky waterfalls, and then they didn't exist. So.
She can make them anytime she wants, and now she knows how even. So that's
there you go.
Cool. That's pretty cool. Well, it's a lot of fun when you start to play around with settings in your camera, and I kind of touched on this a few minutes ago. But what is a slow shutter speed and settings and so on and so forth? The bottom line is, in photography, there's aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. I mean, that's pretty much the whole gist of it, right? Each thing can do so much as far as creating a specific effect. Like aperture, you can get depth of field. ISO, you can create or eliminate grain, make your camera very sensitive to light, exposed for brighter backgrounds. But with the shutter speed, I always found that there's just way more you can do, whether it's a fast or a slow.
Well, and the other thing that I like with shutter speed is that it creates a result that you can't really do in post.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can do a tiny little bit, but it's something. If you're doing slow shutter speed, I mean, it's hard to do a milky waterfall in post. It's hard to do light trails from a car in post. Mm-hmm. So you have to get it right in camera.
Absolutely. And not only that, but if you did it right in camera, you wouldn't have to edit. So it saves you time afterwards, which is...
See it right away.
Yeah, you can see it right away. I like doing a lot of light painting things, and I tether to the computer, and when I'm doing that, my camera's connected, take the photo, it pops up on the computer, and you can see the results right away and make changes on the next photo you make. So there's a lot of really cool things that you can do. One thing we have to know, though, is that what happens if your camera's in an automatic mode is it's always going to try and balance that light back to zero. So if you're shooting in like aperture priority or program mode or fully auto or any kind of scene mode, you don't have the ability to just say, here, this is the shutter speed that I want. So if you're going to be shooting any kind of slow shutter exposures or things like that, you're going to want to go to either shutter priority or, in Canon lingo, TV, the time value. Yeah, it makes sense if you know what it means. And also manual mode. Manual is pretty much what I live in when I'm shooting in that kind of way, because then I'm choosing how much depth of field I want, I'm choosing how much exposure I want or how slow of a shutter, and getting rid of the grain altogether by shooting at low ISO. So you can make these changes a little bit better for this kind of photography if you do shoot manual. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I think for someone who might be starting out, who are, just kind of trying to get out of auto, they can start in the shutter speed or time value priority setting. That way you can control the shutter speed. That's all you have to, I guess, worry about for that time being, and the camera will adjust your aperture for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's if you don't really care about how much depth to focus.
You just want to experiment with, different shutter speeds and see what they do, right?
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And that's the bottom line, is you want something like this to be fun and straightforward so anybody can do it, right?
Yeah.
And that could simplify things, so time value or shutter priority mode is something you can try. Now, this is interesting. We've been talking about doing the show, Navi and I, at work. We work together at Henry's in Newmarket, and we had been talking about what should we do for the next show, and Navi suggested slow shutter. And it was, 2 days later that the girl came into the store asking about, what was it, Monday? It was Monday she came in because we were doing the show now, and we just told her we're doing this exact thing on the show on Wednesday. She came into the store. She has a school project that she was working on, and she had to do a photo of a dancer where it was very sharp, and then there was like a soft blur to it, so you could see she's dancing into the frame and then very still. It was really interesting because it got us thinking, and Navi and I were sitting there with her for a few seconds, how do we do this? And it's not the kind of thing where you can just say, here's your settings, make it happen. And the one thing about light painting or shooting at night or long exposures is it's very much trial and error.
I think she's taken back on how much, is required to kind of get the shot that she was looking for, as opposed to just, telling her this is the setting. Like when you started going into like, well, there's constant lights here, or there's a flash here to get this certain effect, as well as doing a slow shutter. She was kind of like, panicky.
I know. Like, do I really have to do this now for school? But it was an interesting concept. I was trying to find that photo. Actually, I think I have that shot somewhere close by, where she actually pulled this image up and was trying to show this as her example. Of course, now that I'm looking for it, I can't find it. So anyway, moving along. It's a really difficult thing to get and get any kind of consistency on. So what we ended up suggesting to her was a dark background, right? Instead of going for a very light background. Now, unfortunately, she was going to be in a dance academy, didn't really necessarily have the ability to make the background ridiculously dark, but I think she bought some background paper. We also suggested that, you know, the color of the clothing is very important. So whatever is brighter clothing will show as more blur because the light will reflect off it more. The lighting you use, suggested window lighting at one point and then flash at the end with the rear curtain flash. We're going to talk about rear curtain in a minute. Placement of the lighting, where the lighting should go. Is it aiming at the model or is it aiming at the background? How close does it have to be? All of these things are relevant, and this is what Navi was saying. You get into all of this stuff, and she was like, whoa, wait a minute. That's a lot of stuff. I mean, so many variables, right, Gabe? I mean, there's so we do the light painting stuff for Bring on the Night classes, and you just don't know exactly what you're going to get sometimes. Now, experience helps, builds up a bit of a database, but still.
Yeah, it can help you get there quicker, but you're usually going to have to take a few shots to nail down what it is you're trying to get.
I think that's part of the fun, though, don't you?
Right?
What's that, Navi?
You want to figure out, pre-visualize what kind of shot it is you're trying to achieve to get there.
First and foremost.
Yeah, as opposed to just setting a bunch of different settings and hoping for the best kind of thing.
Yeah.
It turns out to be what you want.
I ran into one of your situations earlier, guys, that you guys have mentioned before, where I had a neighbor of mine that found out that I teach photography, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going away on vacation. I've got a point and shoot. I was wondering if you can just sit down with me for a second and tell me what setting is best for vacations."
Smiley face.
Yes.
The beach umbrella.
The Running Man.
Yeah, the one that says P on it. It's program, fully auto, don't worry about it.
Fun with a PH. So it'll be fine.
It happens all the time, though. It's true. I'm shooting a wedding this weekend. Can you set my camera up? Make sure my settings are right? No.
Off.
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 All right. I just going to take a quick second to remind everybody the Q&A app is open. If you want to chat to us, let us know some opinions, some examples that you've done with Slow Shutter that you want to share with us, go ahead, post it in the Q&A, say hi to us. Whatever you need, the Q&A is open, so go right ahead and utilize that. Now, in the notes here, I'm going to take a picture with my camera and show you what a Slow Shutter looks like, but one of the things I had was this motion blur for texture. And Navi and Gabriel were like, "What? That's just out of focus. It's not. It's blurry." Like, so I'm going to talk about that. It's kind of neat. But before we get to that, I just want to show people what a slow shutter speed sound is. So if you take a picture, this is a 1 second exposure. What happens is the shutter will open and then close for after 1 second. Now you saw in the camera the aperture closed down. It made the shot. That was f16. That's why the aperture closed down so much. Boink, boink. And that's how it gave me that 1 second exposure. So the sound is something that you get used to. If you're ever making a photo, like we've all shot events and we've all taken pictures when we weren't supposed to have a slow shutter. You take a picture and instantly you know that's going to be blurry, right? Because the shutter stayed open too long. Now, if you can work it to get that sharpness and speed up your shutter speed, yeah, that's great. But that's not what we're talking about tonight. What we're talking about tonight is creating the slow shutter speed for that reason, to get the blur. And there's so many cool things you can do to make that happen. So, motion blur for texture. There's a lot of folks who will make a photo and purposely move the camera a little bit. Go with the slower shutter speed and just move the camera up and down in a predictable pattern to get a texture rather than any kind of detail. A lot of people do this for pictures of grass and reeds and things like that, flowers. waterfalls, even. Just get close to a waterfall and go up and down a little bit, and you can create this motion blur effect, which a lot of people end up using for more of a texture photo rather than a defined, hey, I know what that is kind of a picture. Now, I don't think you guys have done that, have you?
Not really. I can't say that I have.
I can think of one person who does it very well, Isabel Kelly, who's a member of our community. I'm actually just looking through her photos and trying to find it, and I haven't been able to. Oh, here's.
Show me a picture because I'm trying to figure out.
Here you go.
What it is. Okay.
Here's one of her shots, and she looks at it from more of an artistic viewpoint than just what you might think. So you can see how it's more about the texture than it is about the tree.
That's like a painting.
Right, exactly. So this is one of those effects that people can play with. You just basically set your camera to a slower shutter. Let's just see what she did here with the shutter speed. Watch this be a composite. Yeah, a quarter of a second. She shut her aperture down to f/25, 800 ISO for this specific photo, and it was done at a quarter second. So this is something that you can do handheld and make a really interesting looking shot.
Actually, you know what? Looking at that photo, I can't say I use it for texture, but I've done that where I'm doing a slow shutter and I move the camera purposely. I'm shooting a reception where I want sort of I'll have a flash go off and illuminate my subject, but I want the lights in the back to kind of look cool and squiggly, so I'll move the camera for that, but not for texture. But that was a very cool photo.
Yeah, she does a lot of those kinds of things, and I love looking at the way she sees light and so on, and the fact that photography literally is translated to drawing with light. Anything that reflects light could end up being a paintbrush for you, so just moving that around can give you a different look. Another really neat way to use a slow shutter is to get some sharpness and some motion at the same time. This is Dave Black's photo. Dave is somebody who I absolutely love as a photographer and an instructor, and he happens to be the keynote speaker for the expo in September, which is really great. I can't wait to have him come up and do some talks for us. But this is a shot done at 15th of a second shutter speed. And he just kept on, he was doing it for, he says, he'd been panning the action at a 15th of a second and kept that slow shutter speed while this rodeo guy kind of strolled across the arena floor. And you can see there's a lot of motion on the ground, but his hat's nice and sharp. So he's following the motion and the speed of the rodeo guy, but everything around him is blurring. So that's another way where you could use this slow shutter speed to get a different kind of effect. I'm going to leave it to Dave Black to inspire me once again. It's cool stuff. I've said it for a long time, sharpness and motion is one of my favorite things to do in shooting wrestling. I do that quite often, where I will drag the shutter and use flash at the same time. Gabe, when you shot the picture of the fire for the Vaughan Film Festival,
yeah.
Did you use a slow shutter speed for that?
I did. So I've been spending most of this time looking for a specific set of pictures that I was amazed that I couldn't find, and I just found them. So
cool.
Just bear with me for 1 second. I don't know. Oh, okay. I had the keyword falls, but not water.
Oh.
Okay, that's now been added. Okay. So yeah, so when I was shooting that, I had the flash added to on my camera, and basically I knew that as soon as I turned the flash off, the camera would automatically compensate with a longer shutter speed. So I only had a split second to get it. I saw that I turned off the flash really quickly, and then it turned it into like from 1/200th of a second to about I think it was about a 40th of a second.
And you got this big burst of.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fun when you can have a happy accident like that too.
Well, yes and no. Like I saw it coming, right? And so that was, I'd say, maybe part happy accident, part knowing my gear, knowing that if I want to grab that picture as soon as it's coming up, the quickest way to do it is to just turn off my flash.
Yeah. And it's funny because I saw your photo and got inspired by it, and I turned around, and then there was a guy doing the same thing on my end of the room, but I did use flash. So I actually had him very sharp and the fire, also sharp, and with the background very dark. So it was a different approach to the same concept, right? But they were both neat, and it's that's what I love about photography is there's so many variables that you.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I have a couple examples of some slow shutter speed shots that I've done. If you want,
please.
Just kind of share them quickly. They're not, half of these aren't even processed, so they're not like, mind-blowing or anything, but this was just near my old house, and I just set it up on a tripod, and I was doing something else. Actually, you know what? With this one, I was playing with aperture, and I was trying to figure out how to, what aperture would get different stars around the streetlights. With that specific lens, and I just happened to catch a car going by, so that was kind of fluke. Now this one here, this is an interesting one because there is it looks like this is static, but this is earlier on in photography, and I actually ended up coming to you saying I was trying to get a picture of the windmill, and it was f/22, it was ISO 100. I was trying to do everything that I could to get a slow shutter speed, and that's when I got introduced to neutral density filters.
Aha.
So one way to get a slower shutter speed in a day like this, I wanted to get, it was moving pretty fast, but I could only get a shutter speed, slow enough that it still captured the still movement. And so yeah, neutral density filters, I'm sure we'll get to that a little bit later on how you can get a slower shutter speed during the day or in other situations. This was another one. This was like a 2-minute exposure, and I just ran around this playground with the flash and fired it, manually fired it on myself.
Were you there just by yourself?
Oh yeah, it was freaky. Well, you know what? Nothing freaked me out until I ran around and looked at the picture on the other side of the camera and went, okay, I'm going home. So these are just different shutter speeds. This is, again, Lake Wilcox. I was playing with a neutral density filter, and it was on a windy day, so you get the nice kind of silky, lake. That wasn't anything to do with that. Again, Lake Wilcox, slow shutter speed, so the water was almost completely still, but you get the beautiful movement of the clouds. This one here, slow shutter speed, you get some motion trails and stuff, which was really nice.
What was that, about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 5 minutes?
Actually, I think that may have been about 15 minutes.
Wow. To
get that much movement in there. There was one that I did that was 45 minutes, but right at 40 minutes, a car came and did a U-turn and just blew out the whole shot. I had to start over. Again, this one here was about 15 minutes to just, and it was a HDR as well, but
a 15-minute exposure and you HDR'd?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the only picture I took all night.
Huh.
This one here was really cool. There was a police helicopter, and it was flying around with the light. They call it the second sun. And it was flying around. They were looking for suspects, and it was just circling this area. So I pulled over the side of the road, set up my tripod, and did a long exposure, and that's the route of the helicopter flying around looking for suspects.
And then all of a sudden you felt this cold, hard steel in the back of your neck. What are you doing, Gabriel?
This one isn't exciting. I don't know why it's in there. And then this is another one. So long exposure during a thunderstorm. I just went out and set up 30-second exposures, and it would do a 30-second. Every 15 pictures there would be nothing, but then it would just, and that one of them would be lucky enough to capture this. So that's a couple examples of what you can use long exposure for.
Awesome stuff. Great stuff to share. Different examples, all different things people could try. A lot of people try and do the lightning thing. I think that was a huge, cool thing that you shared because people think that, oh, you're just going to go out there and take a picture when you see a lightning bolt. Nah, doesn't work that way.
No. Next time I do want to try the trigger trap. And see if that has any better luck. But usually I just set up on a 30-second exposure and sit there with my umbrella trying to keep the camera, not myself, dry, and you just hope for the best.
Um, I was looking around. I see Jennifer Wolf just posted that she posted some slow shutter and some slow shutter and slow shutter with panning to the show page. I can't seem to find that, Jennifer. I don't know if you guys can see that and I can't on the show page, or is it in the community? I'm just going to have a look inside the community and see if I can find Jennifer's photo there. But yeah, it's just one of the most interesting things that you can do.
There you go.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I see. I'll get a quick screen share. She just posted it in the community.
Oh, okay, cool.
I hope that's it. That's her name, so.
There you go. So that's very much in line with what I was sharing with Isabel's photos. That nice, just kind of side-to-side panning, getting the blur. And there's the ghost of a person walking their dog.
It looks like a sheep.
A sheep. Yeah, that's what you see all the time on the beach, people walking their sheep.
Look, I would like to try this sometime.
It's a neat effect.
Or this effect, yeah. It's kind of neat. Thanks for sharing, Jennifer.
Awesome. Cool stuff, Jennifer. Yeah, this is just exactly my point. There's so many things you can do. That's just something I wouldn't have thought about, going to the beach and getting that nice texture going back and forth. Very, very cool stuff.
It's something that you have to have patience for, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep going on that because that's a good point.
Pardon?
Keep going on that because that's a very good point.
Like, sometimes you have to experiment with multiple shots to kind of get, the look that you want. And plus, it's a slow shutter, so you're going to be giving up a little bit of your time waiting for the thing to be done, especially if you're doing star trails, which is, half hour, 45. Mm-hmm. I've never made it that long. I usually just get scared or bored or cold, and then I leave. So done is like 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Right back.
Yeah, very much like tonight, you're going to go take pictures of the Aurora Borealis on your own.
Yeah. My plan is still to go, so we'll see.
All right, I'm just going to go quickly to the Q&A here. David, good to see. Nice that you're here. Thank you for watching tonight. Yeah, and Jennifer, thank you very much for sharing those photos. And Jennifer, also thank you for saying that you can see in the community. We've got them. That's awesome. I'm going to go down through a few of the shots that I've done. I do a lot of long exposure stuff. I really enjoy it, and I don't know why. It's just something about, playing around with. It is fun playing around with these long exposures and seeing what you get afterwards. It's really cool. So I've kind of broken it down to not so slow, really slow, and ridiculously slow. So for not so slow, we're talking about maybe zoom blur with flash. So this is a shot here. I'm going to open and share. That I shot with about a 20th of a second, but I was using flash. And halfway through the shot, or actually as I triggered the shot, I zoomed in at the same time. And then I used flash on rear curtain, so as soon as the exposure finished, the flash fired, and I got some sharpness in the photo as well. So it's just something that I was playing around with. I find that wrestling photography can potentially be very dramatic, and if you add a little bit of motion blur or zoom blur into it, it gives it a different feel. I haven't seen too many people doing this kind of thing.
I think for this kind of photo, it works. It makes me think of like, pow,
Got blown back into the corner, and he's kind of like...
Yeah.
But the funny thing, though, I mean, for Pam, for every shot that I make like this that I actually like, I'm making maybe 50 that I don't. Mm-hmm. So there's this big debate, like, I'm shooting the event for them, so am I going to waste all these frames just, playing around, or do I want to actually capture the action so that they can do something with the photos?
Well, I think it's like wedding photography. You go in and you get your staple shots. You get the shots for the, for the mom and the grandma, and then you get creative. So you go into wrestling, you get your staple shots. You get your I need one good shot of this person, one good shot of that person. Good, I've got it now. Now I play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's pretty much how I saw it. Once I got all the shots in that match that I really needed, I would play. But I'd always feel guilty, like, oh, these aren't working out, and I'd flip back to normal modes, and then I get home, and I'm like, oh, man, I should have stuck with it more and tried more with it. Like for the zombie photos, I took some shots at the zombie walk where I'd sit right in the middle of the street, and as the zombies would walk past, they were getting blur and all this really cool effects. So you know, it's stuff that I think I'm doing wrong as I'm doing it, and then when I get home and realize that they were actually pretty cool, I'm like, I should have done it more. So you got to give yourself permission to really work at these kinds of things sometimes, I find. For example, here's another shot that I'm talking about from the zombie walk. Here you go. Again, this is about a 20th of a second shutter, but the people that are moving side to side, you're getting a lot more blur. The people that are coming toward me, I got less blur. So it's a totally different kind of photo than I think most people were taking at that event, because everybody's looking
absolutely.
I need a sharp, clear photo, right?
And there's a difference between taking a picture like this because it creates a cool effect and taking a picture like this by accident.
Yes.
So there's probably a few pictures taken like this unintentionally because it was an overcast day, but to up your ISO a little bit so you can get a little bit faster shutter speed than the average person's going to be getting off their BlackBerry, and then create this effect.
Absolutely true, and it was a lot of fun too. I recommend anybody, by the way, go to the zombie walk because there's so many things you can do photographically at an event like that you just play with stuff for months later.
And talk about having 800 willing models.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's great.
So true.
They will ham it up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you just ask them, say, hey, can I take your photo? You will get the best reactions and the best emotions from these guys. Okay, now those are 20th of a second, 15th of a second. They're not 1 second. They're not 10-second long exposures. You know, you're not waiting for this blur thing to really happen. What if we stretched it out a little bit more? What if we started going to maybe 15 or 20-second exposures? Here's a long exposure, but adding in flash to the shot. This is something that Gabriel and I did on one of our Bring on the Night classes. So it's very much like what you did, Gabe, with walking around the park. You were in different places. All I ended up doing was moving a little bit more to the side, a little bit more to the side, a little bit more to the side. So I call this one multiplicity because it's multiple me's.
It's awesome.
But it's a neat effect, and it's something that we knew roughly what would happen, but I didn't know exactly how it would look. So play around with it. Have some fun.
And that's less creepy looking.
Yeah, just a bit. So that's what you would get if you had a little bit longer exposure and you added some flash. There's also zoom blur. Now this is something that we do a lot, or I do a lot when we do like the fire on ice stuff, the steel wool, because now we're at night and it's so much easier to work with long exposures when there's less light. As Gabriel was saying, you don't need neutral density filters, you don't need other things to help you limit the light into your camera. So here is a shot from one of our other fire on ice sessions that we did, Gabe. I believe this was Darren spinning the steel wool on this one.
Oh,
and
cool.
He had it hooked up to the drill.
Yeah, exactly. And halfway through the 30-second exposure, 15 seconds in, I just zoomed the lens.
Really neat.
Yeah, what was really cool is I've got sharpness at both points. I think a big part of that is the fact that I was shooting at a deeper depth of field. So here's where controlling the aperture and the shutter speed and the ISO is pretty much necessary, right?
I've never seen this photo before.
Oh, no?
No, I've never seen that. It's really neat.
Cool, thanks. It was a lot of fun. I took a bunch of them like that night, but this was during last year's, not this year's, finale, our big competition that we had. It was cool.
I actually see a lot of zoom blur for fireworks photos, too.
Yes.
Cool.
Not only zoom blur, but focus blur. Focus blurred fireworks has got to be one of the coolest things. I'm going to see if I can find something. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's almost like the firework is blooming. Here we go. See if this will ever focus for me here. This will do it. All right. So this is just a quick photo that I found here, learnmyshot.com. So this is literally just fireworks, but using focus blur instead of zoom blur. So if you start off with your focus in focus, and then halfway through the shot you just start to turn your focus ring, now you're using the long exposure to create this glow.
Ooh. I've never tried focus blur before. I've only tried the zoom blur. Hey, it doesn't even look like fireworks anymore.
Well, this is one of the techniques that we're going to be teaching at our fireworks class on June 30th. So if anybody wants to learn how to do these techniques hands-on, this is something that we have in the plans for our big barbecue party that we're doing on June 30th, which has turned into a barbecue party. Great idea, Navi. Roll that into our big barbecue, summer barbecue. Yeah, it's awesome. Anyway, what's this? We have a comment in the Q&A. It says, I have some nice lightning shots, but there's a lot of noise in the dark sky. Is there any way to minimize that? There is a lot of ways to minimize the noise in the dark sky. One would be lower your ISO.
Yeah, the whole thing with light... Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'm butting in.
I was hoping you would. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry. The whole thing with the lightning photography is that you can do as long a shutter speed as you pretty much as you need, because if you don't catch any lightning, who cares how dark it is? But if you do catch lightning, it's going to brighten your shot. So I do 30. I think I do about 30 seconds. It's been a while since I've done it, but I'm pretty sure I do about 30-second ISO 100, and I even go to about f18 because I find that anything faster than that, or different than that in the aperture, when it does capture the lightning, it's just blown out. So I know a lot of people, they try to take the picture so that it's properly exposed if they don't get anything. And then they realize that if it does capture lightning, then it's just basically white. So you want to shoot it really underexposed, and then the lightning will adjust the exposure for you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, ISO 100, 15 to 30 seconds, f18 is usually a good starting point. And then the lightning does the exposure for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the best way I found to get lightning shots too, is just you press the shutter when you're on burst mode and lock it, and then every 30 seconds it'll just take another shot. Mm-hmm. One thing that does happen though with really long exposures is film is a little bit different. Film was silver particle that reacted to light. Digital is actually a sensor with pixels that are being electronically activated and heated. So if you end up leaving your sensor open for a longer period of time and it generates more heat, that heat alone can generate noise. So you may end up shooting at 100 ISO and getting a lot of grain because your shutter was open for such a long period of time. So there's a feature in a lot of cameras called the long exposure noise reduction, otherwise known as LENR. I don't know, we say LENR. So what this does is it takes a second photo for every photo you take, and it's a black photo, and it layers the black photo on the photo you shot to help eliminate the noise and grain and speculation that happens, the red and blue pixels that kind of form on these very long exposures. So one thing you can do is make sure your ISO is low. Second thing you can do is make sure long exposure noise reduction is turned on. That may help you with it. But realize, since you're taking a second photo, it's generally the same duration of time as the first photo. So if you take a 30-second shot, it's another 30 seconds before you can take another photo. Your camera's processing
that.
You don't want that with lightning photography.
Exactly. For lightning photography, you turn that off, or else it's going to be picture, 30 seconds of wait, lightning goes off.
Yeah.
Picture. You end up missing everything. Now, Gabriel, you said something about this earlier. I'm having a blank, but something in my head said that you had a point to make on this point.
About the long exposure noise? Yeah. I never use it during lightning photography. Most of the cameras, it's 1-to-1, so if it's a 30-second exposure, it's a 30-second second shot, except for some of the newer cameras, the 5D Mark III. It's not 1-to-1, it's about a third the amount of time. Besides that, I'm drawing a blank as to what I may have said.
It'll come to me.
Okay.
In the meantime, though, Michelle just shared with us that she just shared a 2.5-second exposure on the Daytripper Photo community page. So why don't we do a quick screen share and see what Michelle's 2.5-second exposure looks like. So you can see, it's interesting. This must have been a very, very calm day because the trees are nice and sharp. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of motion in these branches.
Tiny little leaf falling. You see the motion there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Look at that, falling out of the tree there.
Cool.
but the water's silky, not overexposed. What is difficult with a photo like this is you'll notice the sky does get very bright. So for these kinds of photos, there's filters called, well, we talked about it before, neutral density filters, but these are graduated neutral density filters, which means that the top is dark and the bottom stays the same brightness. So you're actually only darkening the top part of your photo, and they're usually square plates. I don't have anything the exact size, but a square plate about yay big, and you just slide it up. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
That big usually.
And then you put the mount on your front of your lens. You take that thing and you just kind of slide it up and down, and it will block the light from whatever gradient you want. So if you're shooting a horizon, or if you're shooting something where there's water in the bottom and sky on top, you can put the darker part of the filter on the top, darkening that down and not getting that overexposure. That does happen a lot when you do those kinds of photos.
You made a good point, Brian, with the leaves are sharp. If you're, depending on what you're shooting, if you are doing a really long exposure and you have leaves, you may or may not want the effect, but you're going to have some movement in the trees, right? So you kind of have to be careful with that.
Good point. Good point. And Gabriel doing long exposure with HDR, that's also a very difficult thing.
It is, but with a picture like Michelle's, that would be hard to do because of the intricate details of the leaves,
right,
and everything. So with something like that, then or even if you just have a normal neutral density filter, like a square one, and you don't have a graduated, just kind of hold it over the top half, and you just blend the two images together or something. But it would be hard to do HDR on that one.
Actually, I'm going to show you a quick HDR. Actually, I want the top of HDR and slow exposure and blurry trees. I had a combo here for you. So this is, I think, 2 or 3 exposures.
Oh.
And so you can see that the leaves, it was kind of windy, but it was long enough that you can see so this is 20 seconds in the trees.
Making me look forward to Vegas and the photography I'm going to get there.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. That would be great. So, there's a lot more to this photo, though, than you're letting on. Isn't there now?
Yeah, so we previously mentioned it, using flash to, I guess, accentuate different parts of the photo. In one of the other frames, Devin is actually walking along the pool here and pulsing the flash onto these chairs because they weren't lit.
Awesome.
So you get a little bit of detail, and I did 2 or 3 shots to get the detail in the buildings without blowing out, all this stuff.
It's a great way to do it. Unfortunately, like Navi's saying, though, you will have the leaves that are blowing in the wind and so on because the shutter's open all the time, exposing for that.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the photo is awesome, and it looks great, and it's a great effect. Okay, so that's the slow shutter speeds. Slow shutter speeds, to me, are down to about 30 seconds because that's pretty much the way your camera is built for, right? You can set your camera down as slow as 30 seconds, but one notch slower than 30 seconds is a mode called bulb. I'm going to put my camera into that and show you guys bulb mode. See if you can see that okay.
Nope.
Bulb. Light up, bulb mode.
There you go.
Blub mode. There you go. So bulb mode is literally just 1 second slower than 30 seconds. Now what bulb is, and it was originally taken from back in the day of the history of photography where you had those cores that you'd plug into the side of your camera where that was attached to a little bulb that you would squeeze. And as you squeeze the bulb, it sends a pin into the shutter of the camera, and that's what takes the photo. So as long as you hold that bulb down, it keeps on exposing the photo. Well, the new remote controls and so on have a little lever. So you press it, you lock it, and then you can walk away. And that entire time the shutter's open, you're exposing. So I mentioned earlier about this light painting technique that I've been playing around with here in the room. This is a shot that is 170 seconds long of an exposure. So,
but Brian, on cameras, in bulb mode, unless you have a remote, there is no lock button.
Good point.
Right, so you'd have to get a remote of some sort, or else you'd be standing there and actually physically holding that button down.
Or a heavy rock.
Exactly.
Or a mechanism with that pokey hand thing that's pushing on it.
Yes, the pokey hand thing, but that's the technical term. We don't want to get too technical on this show, okay? So,
train a gerbil.
Just to hold down gerbils. They make me laugh. So here you can see the photo up. It's up, right?
Yep.
All right, cool. So what I've done here is the entire time that the shutter was open, I took some flashlights and I lit the flowers in the background, and I did actually take some flashlights and light the camera in the front. When I saw the photo afterward, I thought I could have done something else in camera, not edited. This is not edited, by the way. This is straight out of camera. What I could have done was turn out all the lights in between, like, so I'd light paint the flowers, then I'd turn off all the lights, refocus on the camera, and then just light paint the camera. Then I'd end up with focus on the camera and on the flowers at the same time. So I'm effectively focus stacking and light painting at the same time. Which I didn't do because after 170-second exposures I got tired. But something you can do. Andrew still has one of those bulb releases in his bags. Yeah, I think I've got one lying around somewhere too. Don't use it too much though. But it's kind of neat seeing the history of photography and how all this stuff started, I think. So that is a 170-second exposure. Now, another way that we can use these really long exposures is drawing with light. And so we talk about the drawing with light technique a lot when we do our Bring on the Night classes. But Navia and Gabe, you were both with me on this shoot. This was when we went to Joker Hill for the meteor shower that never was. And I brought the Brinkman out, and this is a long exposure shot where I literally used a flashlight to light up the gazebo and the trees. So, yeah, I could have put the light anywhere I wanted. I could have put it on the trees way off into the background over here if I wanted to. Again, this was playing around, having a good time, hanging out with friends, and seeing what we can do. But the nice thing about...
I'm going to show a different picture.
Oh, the... the gas explosion or something, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Navi and Devin took off on their own, started doing some light painting, and they were doing some explosions out of their butt or something. I don't know. It was pretty awesome. But what I was going to say is, what I love about doing this kind of stuff is you expose for the sky. So I get the sharp details of the stars. This wasn't any longer than 30 seconds on the shot, but having it stay open for that long and light painting is the effect you're talking about. But being able to get those nice clear stars in the shot and then just light up what I want to light up, it's another very cool thing you can do.
There you go.
Oh, you found it.
Like one of my first Google Plus photos that I uploaded.
Oh, the fun you could have with light painting. It's true, though. It's such a good thing. Like, we were all at the same place, and we all made completely different photos.
It's pretty funny.
Oh, hat trick. The hat trick is something that we're going to teach on our fireworks class as well. It's when you can create multiple fireworks in one shot. So, again, you just leave the shutter open on bulb mode, and you put a hat in front of the lens. So you literally just grab a hat, stick it on your lens, and when the firework goes off, you move the hat, put it back. Next firework goes off, move the hat, put it back, and you end up with this right here. So capturing multiple fireworks in one shot. And they're not too bright. They're not overexposing anything because you're only really exposing for 2 seconds at a time and putting the hat back in place. So very, very cool stuff you can do with these long exposures.
What's the longest exposure you've done?
45 minutes.
Wow.
45 minutes. And it's a funny story around it, too, in fact. I just so happen to have it here. Here is my 45-minute star trail. So here's the story. I had no idea where I was aiming the camera. I didn't know what I was looking at. The stars weren't that bright to begin with. This was in Algonquin at Sand Lake. I don't know if you can see the bars in the photo. See these bars are going up and down? There's one, there's another one, there's another one. This is actually like a complete mess up. I set my camera up by the water, and I went back up to the cottage, which isn't that far, and I just kind of sat with Shelly and chilled for a little while, and fell asleep. Passed out, gone. About 4 a.m., Shelly jolts up, and she's like, "Where's your camera?" Wake up out of a dead sleep, and this is hours later, 4 hours or so later. I wake up out of a dead sleep. I'm freaking out. Where's my camera? I remembered I'd left it down by the water. It's a private lake. I didn't have to worry about anybody stealing it, but it was starting to rain. So I run down to the water. I grab my camera, and it's dead. There's no power at all. I'm thinking, oh my God, I killed it. It's already got wet. I thought I was dead. I brought it back into the cabin, and it poured. As soon as I got back in the cabin, it just started pouring rain. So I just saved Mr. Snaps. I brought him back into the cabin, changed the battery, and he was fine. But this is a 45-minute shot that was shot while I was falling asleep. And so I didn't end the photo. It ended the photo by the battery dying, which I believe is why it's all, pretty noisy and there's those bars through it and so on. But,
right.
For 45 minutes, it's a really long star trail. So here's why I wanted to show this photo. A lot of people get those star trail photos where it's like the stars going all the way across the sky. Well, it's hard to do that because your batteries will die, for one. It'll generate a lot of heat because your sensor is constantly exposing. You're not going to do a 45-minute exposure and then have 45-minute long noise reduction turned on because I don't know many batteries that can handle that kind of power load. So what a lot of people end up doing is 30-second exposures in burst, like Gabriel was talking about earlier, where you just hold the shutter down, lock it, and then it just takes, every 30 seconds takes another photo. Doing something like 30, 40, 50 photos over the course of an evening, changing your battery when you have to, and then stitching those together in Photoshop. And then you end up with a very clean, clear line that'll travel all the way across the sky, and you can really dictate exactly how long that line would be. Unlike this photo, where it's noisy, the camera battery died, and it wasn't a successful image, although it's kind of neat to look at, and you can see where the North Star was and stuff like that. But
what if you used a AC adapter?
Well, you could do that. That would be a great way to go. If you were going to do a lot of this kind of stuff, definitely an AC adapter. This was down by the waterfront on a beach, so I guess I could run an extension cord if I had to, but I don't know. I don't think I would have thought to use an extension cord. And if you're doing these kinds of things up in the Arctic or something, there's just no way that you can.
Mm-hmm. That's good if you're doing like in your backyard or something. If you want one really long exposure. Yeah,
that would be the way to do it for sure. I'd suggest though, just get a battery grip for your camera, put 2 batteries in there, and that usually is long enough for most long exposures that people would do.
So let's figure out gear for long exposures. What are the top 5 things people should have?
Perfect. Top 5 things: tripod, remote control, extra batteries, and a grip, battery grip. Now I've got a grip for my the Schwartz, but I've only used it maybe once. It makes it heavier, and I don't use it a lot. But for something like long exposure, star trails, and things like that, a grip is an excellent asset. Flashlights. I'm Mr. Flashlight. Have to have flashlights.
I have a tip on that.
Go for it.
So this is a new. I love headlights, and have bought a few of them, but I always go to Canadian Tire and buy the El Cheapo like $7 headlights. So I was at Mountain Equipment Co-op the other day, and they have headlights there, like just normal headlights, like $230. Like, you can go crazy with headlights. This is a black diamond. It's called the Black Diamond Spot, and it's ridiculously powerful. But the thing I love about this one is it does white like that. It does flood like that. And if you hold down, it does red. But the coolest thing about this one is if you hold down, you can dim the red.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
So I've been in a bunch of situations where, for those of you that don't know, red is really good for night photography because it's the only color that doesn't kill your night vision. So if you have a headlight that can do red and light up your camera, you can illuminate your camera without ruining your night vision. But sometimes, I had a big Energizer one here, which recently stopped working much sooner than it should have, a huge Energizer one like that, and the red on it was really, really, really bright. Mm-hmm. So even though it didn't ruin your night vision, it still bothered your eyes.
And so it would get in the photos easily too.
How much is that?
I would get in the photos. This one here was $60, so it's not cheap, but it's incredibly powerful, and you can adjust the brightness of not only the red, but A sec. There you go. So there's the white, which is crazy bright, but then you can also adjust the brightness
Oh, that's
on the
smart.
white as well.
How many lumens?
So, you know what? I can look it up, but it was it's up there.
Well, that's a great asset for sure. The headlight's actually really cool because, as Gabe mentioned, having that red light is a really handy to have. It doesn't ruin your night vision. When it's really bright, you can still use it to walk where you need to go. But when it's dimmer, you can use it behind your camera without worrying about light leak and other issues of light bleeding into the camera because you can dim it down. That's great.
130 lumens.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's really, really bright. And the thing I found out with headlamps is it's like tripods. Spend money on a good one in the beginning because all the cheap ones you buy, I used to buy packs of 4 and they'd all just break in a few months. Just go out and spend $60 on a good one and it'll last you a long time.
Cool.
If you're a camper, it's great for camping.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to go back and buy 3 more of these. And the other nice thing, it just
for my
runs off
birthday?
of normal batteries.
That's so nice of you.
My birthday's coming up.
You know my birthday's in June. That's very nice. I appreciate it.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And Trish and Jaden are getting headlamps for your birthday.
Well, use them wisely, as my grandmother would say. All right, so other things that you'd want to use. Other things you want to use. Leatherman. Having a good multi-tool on your hip at all times is super handy, whether it's taking off your tripod plate on the bottom of your camera or...
Oh.
He didn't upgrade his internet.
He's still on.
Have one on me. Did you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
He froze out for a second.
Yeah, I thought I froze. I was just saying the Leatherman's handy in so many different ways, so always get something like that. It has a screwdriver, has a flat screwdriver, has knives, has files, lots of cool things. Good memory cards. Have enough space on your memory card. It's pretty self-explanatory. And cameras that are built for the climate that you're shooting in. This is something that I think I should make a point on. There's a lot of cameras out there that aren't really built for shooting in cold, and up here in Canada, the clearest air is in the cold. So a lot of us will go out in the wintertime and try and make these moon photos and star photos in the winter, or even the aurora borealis or anything like that that we might see. Then it's nice to have the cameras that are built for that kind of thing. So something like the Nikon 7100, which is a magnesium chassis, or the full-frame cameras from Canon and Nikon are all magnesium chassis built for that kind of weather. And of course, use them properly, clean them, maintain them. When you get back in from a day and it's all dirty or something like that, clean your camera, do that well. So those are the things that I think would be the most popular things to get. Now, it was asked, I think Jennifer Brake asked us what a battery grip is. So I'm going to share that with you guys. I'll show the grip that I use for my 7100.
A battery grip is something that I think I need to buy at every single job that I do.
What do you mean?
Oh, every time I'm like doing a wedding or something where I'm shooting for a while and I'm shooting horizontal and vertical, I'm just like, tomorrow I'm going and buying a grip, and then tomorrow comes and I don't.
Well, that's because they're $430 in some cases.
Because they're $430, yes.
Now, some of them could be as cheap as $199, but that's still $200 for this thing that screws onto the bottom of your camera. So this is the grip itself, and this is what it looks like when it's on. I'm pressing on the Hangout chat here. It's not doing anything. Let me go down to the window. This is what it looks like when it's attached to a camera. I'm scrolling all over the place, and it's not a full thing. Anyway, there's the idea. So it screws onto the bottom of your camera. In the Nikon case, in the 7100, there's one battery that fits in the grip. The other battery stays in the camera. Some of the grips have 2 batteries at the same time. And even still, they come with adapters where you can use AA batteries inside the grip as well. So if you run out of your regular camera batteries because they cost $100 and you want to just throw in some AA Duracells, you can do that too. So the grip is a pretty handy thing for that.
It does have quite a bit of bulk. That's my only with that. It is. I mean, if you are shooting a lot of portrait orientation, it is super handy to have that button there as opposed to being like this. But if you're trying to keep your gear minimal, it does add a little bit of bulk.
That's right, because there is a separate shutter on the side of it and on the top that way. So.
Right. The thing that I found for events is for any type of event is that it lowers your profile. So when you're shooting, unbelievably, I don't have a camera around me right now, but when you're shooting, say this is your camera, right, and you're shooting like this, and you go to shoot sideways, your elbow's automatically going out like that, and then you're going to shoot sideways, and you're smacking grandma in the nose or something like that, and you have to kind of think about it to keep your elbow down, right? But it's just more comfortable to keep it up like that. And whereas with the grip, you just keep your finger there, go down like that, and then you have an extra shutter button right there.
Yeah. And you also have controls, so you can control apertures and shutter speeds and stuff. So
yeah.
Even though the camera itself, you usually have all your controls right here, all you gotta do is this, as Gabe is saying, and then you can just do your dials right there as well. As you can see with the systems that I use, I don't usually keep a grip on there, although all of this will attach to the grip as well. So it makes it easy if you need that. And that's pretty much it. That's what we have for tonight. There's not too much confusing when it comes to how to shoot the long exposures. And if anybody has any questions on doing this, feel free to ask your questions in the Daytripper Photo community. Share them with us at any time. Send us emails personally. We're always willing to spend some time and answer your emails and help you out. And also join in on our day trips. I mentioned that we have this really great session. We have planned the fireworks session on June 30th, literally a day before Canada Day. We have this big session now, and it's just been changed yesterday into the 3rd annual Daytripper Photo Summer Barbecue / fireworks event. So we've hired the guys from Rocket Fireworks to come to a special secluded location. If I told you, I'd have to kill you. And what? Well, not then. I'll tell you then. But anyway, I'm not violent, really. So what we're doing, these guys are showing up, and they're giving us this amazing fireworks display. But not only that, it's timed for when we're ready to make the photo. So starts off, we all have a barbecue. Have a great time. I'm even going to call an ice cream truck and have them come. There's going to be ice cream. There's going to be barbecue. Shelly's going to be there making all the great food. So that'll be a lot of fun. Everybody get to meet everybody. One of the comments we had from our last night photography classes, we should all get together ahead of time and introduce ourselves to everybody so we know who's out there wearing their parkas over their face or you can't see them. So this is the thing. We're going to all get together and have a chance to talk and mingle and introduce ourselves to everybody and hang out. And you can bring your kids. Kids under 12 are going to eat for free. If you want to bring your wife or something, it's only $50. So for your wife. $300 for you to come and learn this stuff, but it's a lot cheaper if you just want to bring your wife or another family member with you. But there's so many great things we're going to be teaching. We're going to be teaching the slow shutter. We're going to be teaching the hat trick. We're going to be getting hands-on support of anything you want to do, zoom blur, focus blur, all of that stuff. And the fireworks are going to go off when we're good and ready to shoot them. We'll have a two-way radio to the guys from rocket.ca, and as soon as we're ready, we'll say, okay, guys, let it rip. It goes off. We have focus already. We have exposure already. There's never been a fireworks display that I know of where you could say, hey, guys, hold on one second. All right, I'm ready. Go ahead. Like, so cool. I can't wait for that. And the barbecue is just a huge bonus. We're going to have a great time. And it's going to be summer, Canada Day. It's going to be party. BYOB. Bring your own buddy. So, yeah, there's that. Lots of other.
Responsibly.
Yes, yes. Well, and that's another reason why we have the guys from rocket.ca coming because, this is a very dangerous, potentially, thing. We're dealing with professional-grade fireworks, and these guys have their own liability insurance, and they know how to fire it. And even better than that, they're giving us a behind-the-scenes view of how the mortars are loaded, how they're fired. We're going to get to see exactly the process to launching these big professional fireworks. They're going to give us this great behind-the-scenes experience. So, yeah, guys, if you haven't already, sign up for that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope it happens. The problem is it's such an expensive session that we need more people. So I really hope people embrace this session and decide to come to it and bring their kids and turn it into a big party, and we have a great time. So that's that. Anything to add? Anything coming up for you guys you want to talk about before we say goodnight? Navi?
No, I'm good. I'm going to just peek out my window and see if there's any lights worth going out there for. If not, I'm going to bed.
Yeah, I might have a look outside as well before I go to bed. Anything coming up for you, Gabriel? Any big stuff happening?
Nothing.
It's kind of a quiet time right now for us. We're all in a bit of a lull right now.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of corporate events right now, and keeping busy with other things, and I'm keeping busy with photography, but most of it is renovations on the house and stuff like that. So.
Well, spring is here.
Yeah.
Time to do our cleaning and house stuff. Oh, my driveway is heaving like you wouldn't believe. It looks like my house is sinking into the ground. I don't get it. It's not cool.
Weird.
Yeah, it's not good. There's vroom, vroom all over. Anyway, that's a problem for another conversation on another day. But before we say goodnight tonight, just want to remind everybody the photo challenges are still going on for this week. Make sure that you get out there and you make your photos. The challenges are in between and loud. So we have another week to make these photos for in between and loud. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that extending these to 2 weeks now, so there's a review every other week and a topic every other week, is going to be more interesting for people. Hopefully tonight's show was a little easier to watch. We got into some more interesting things to talk about, and you enjoyed it. So if you did enjoy it, remember to click like, subscribe, and share your YouTube experience with us. And so great. Jennifer's saying no lights here on Simcoe. Oh, so she can actually see. So I guess you guys probably won't be able to see too much either, because that's pretty much where you're at, isn't it?
Pretty much exactly where I live, Georgian Bay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bed. I can have sleep.
Bradford, tell me if I should go outside or not. Just wait, hold the show on for another 5 minutes to see who responds.
What? Coming from you? All right. Well, we still have to say our quote of the night, and the quote of tonight, considering we're talking about slow shutter, this is a quote from Christopher Isherwood. Now, I'll be honest with you, I don't know who Christopher Isherwood is, but the quote was kind of fitting, and is, "I am a camera with its shutter open, quite passive, recording, not thinking." That's pretty much me. Not thinking, passive, recording everything. Yeah. I'm a camera with a shutter open. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching us. Gabriel, Navi, thank you both for being here tonight. Great topic. Next week we're doing all photo reviews, so get your photos in so we have something to talk about. All right, guys. See you all next week. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Oh, just north of Bradford, no lights. There you go.
Ah, darn. All right.
All right.
There you go. Thanks. Who was that?
That was Jennifer.
Ah, thanks, Jennifer.
Jennifer Brake. Oh, and thank you to everybody watching this week. I mean, we've had some new comments from people who haven't really made too many comments in the past, and it's really great to see that we're getting some different people watching and giving us their opinions. So thank you for that as well. All right, saying goodnight now officially. See you, everybody. Bye-bye.